My brother became friends with my sweetheart, and my fathers dared me to come to the party. I came and exposed all my lies. I never imagined the day would come when I'd be forced to attend my brother's wedding with my ex-girlfriend as the bride. Not because I hated my brother, I didn't. It was because she was my past, a chapter I thought was closed for good. When my parents called and told me I had to show up, there was no room for discussion. They made it clear everyone expected me there and no one would explain if I didn't come. It wasn't a request, it was an order disguised as a family favor. So I went. The entire day felt like walking through a minefield of fake smiles and forced pleasantries. Everyone pretended everything was fine, like my brother marrying my ex was no big deal. But it was a big deal to me. I knew exactly what happened behind the scenes, and the fact that they had the audacity to celebrate it openly felt like a punch to the gut every time I caught her looking at me with that calm, unreadable expression. As if the past never existed between us, as if she didn't leave me for him without a word. The wedding hall was packed with relatives and family friends, all acting like this was the happiest day imaginable. Toasts were made, laughter echoed, and pictures were taken. All while I stood there, feeling like I was part of some twisted reality show where I was the forgotten character. The silence from my parents was deafening. They never once brought up the truth, never gave me the chance to explain or express what this meant to me. Instead, I overheard their side conversations, whispering that I was too sensitive and should just get over it, that I was making a mountain out of a molehill. But how do you move on when the people who raised you erase your pain like it's nothing? Watching my brother and her together was surreal. They looked perfect for each other on the surface. He smiled proudly like he'd won some prize and she radiated the same fake happiness she always put on for others. But I knew the cracks beneath that surface. I remembered the late nights she spent calling me, telling me she was confused, unsure if she made the right choice. I remember the day she vanished without explanation. I remembered the texts I found later, the betrayal laid out in plain sight. And now, here they were, getting married as if nothing had happened. The family was divided, but everyone played their part. The ones who knew the truth stayed silent. The ones who didn't accepted the happy narrative. I felt like I was screaming on the inside while everyone else clapped politely. No one asked how I felt. No one cared. My parents treated it like a minor inconvenience, something to sweep under the rug to protect their perfect family image. During the reception, I moved around the room trying to avoid awkward eye contact, but it was impossible. She caught me a few times, giving me that same unreadable look. It wasn't pity. It wasn't guilt. It was empty. I wondered if she felt anything at all. Did my pain matter to her? Did she think about what she took from me? The answer was clear in her eyes. No. The breaking point came when one of my close relatives asked why I looked so distant. The family narrative was that I was just jealous, that I couldn't handle seeing my brother happy. I wanted to scream that it wasn't jealousy, it was betrayal, that I was mourning the person I thought I knew. But I kept my mouth shut. Fighting wouldn't change their minds or their silence. Instead, I made a decision. I wasn't going to disappear into the background anymore. I wasn't going to swallow this betrayal quietly just to keep family peace. If they wanted me at this wedding, they were going to hear my truth. Not with yelling or drama, but with facts and quiet resolve. They needed to understand that what they were celebrating wasn't love. It was a lie. The night wasn't over. There was still time. The weight of their expectations pressed down on me, but so did my own anger and hurt. I could feel the eyes on me. Some curious, some judgmental, some sympathetic, but silent. I wasn't sure how this night would end. I only knew I couldn't keep pretending anymore. What would you do if you were forced to celebrate the person who betrayed you with your own family around? Would you stay quiet and keep the peace, or would you risk everything to tell the truth? Drop your thoughts below. After that wedding day, nothing felt the same anymore. What was supposed to be a celebration turned into a harsh lesson about family, loyalty, and betrayal. The ceremony was just the beginning of a long nightmare where the people I trusted most sided against me. I walked away from that event with my heart shattered, but the worst was still to come. My parents, who I thought would understand my pain, refused to even talk about it. Every time I brought up what happened, their eyes would glaze over or they'd quickly change the subject. It felt like I was invisible, like my feelings didn't matter at all. Instead of comforting me, they acted as if my pain was a problem they wanted to sweep under the rug. I realized then that they cared more about appearances than about their own son's well-being. My brother, who was supposed to be my closest ally, completely shut me out. He acted like I was a stranger, someone who had no place in his life anymore. There was no apology, No attempt to explain or make things right, just silence and cold avoidance. The same person who once shared childhood memories and secrets now refused to even look me in the eye. My ex-girlfriend was the hardest to face. The woman I once loved, who I thought I would spend my life with, now wore a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Her wedding dress hid more than her body. It hid the lies, the betrayals, the nights she spent pretending. I could see the emptiness in her gaze when our eyes met, a silent confirmation that I was a ghost in her new life, erased and forgotten. The family gathered around us didn't offer any comfort. Relatives who should have been neutral took sides immediately. I overheard whispers behind my back, accusations that I was jealous, immature, or selfish. They said I was tearing the family apart by refusing to accept their marriage. It was like I was the villain in a story they wanted to rewrite to keep things comfortable. The truth was inconvenient for them, so they chose denial and silence. The most painful moment came when I received a call from her mother. She accused me of being the bad guy, trying to ruin her daughter's happiness and my brother's life. She told me I was selfish and only interested in stirring up trouble. Those words cut deeper than any betrayal because they came from someone who should have been family, someone who should have understood. I tried to explain, but she wouldn't listen. She had already made her choice. At that point, I realized the family I believed in was gone. They had picked their side, and I was left out in the cold. I had two choices: stay silent and accept the lies, or fight back for the truth. Silence meant losing myself, accepting betrayal without a voice. Fighting meant risking everything: more isolation, more pain, more broken relationships. I chose to fight, not with anger or revenge, but with facts. I gathered every piece of evidence I could find: old messages, pictures, witnesses who knew the truth but stayed quiet. I wasn't seeking drama. I wanted acknowledgement. I wanted my family to see what really happened, even if it meant facing uncomfortable truths. When I confronted my parents with the evidence, they tried to deny everything at first. They accused me of twisting facts and stirring trouble. But as I laid out the proof, their expressions changed. I saw doubt and conflict in their eyes. They were torn between loyalty to my brother and the painful reality I presented. In the end, loyalty won. They told me family comes first, even if it means hiding lies and ignoring betrayal. The fallout was devastating. Some relatives stopped talking to me. Invitations to family gatherings stopped coming. I was labeled the troublemaker, the one who couldn't keep the peace. I became isolated, a pariah within my own family. But strangely, amidst all this pain, I felt a sense of relief. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't pretending. I wasn't hiding behind silence or denial. I was standing up for myself. I learned a hard truth. Family isn't always about unconditional love and support. Sometimes it means standing alone when everyone else turns away. Sometimes the people you thought would protect you are the ones who hurt you the most. But I chose to live my truth, no matter the cost. If you were in my shoes, forced to watch your family side with the person who betrayed you, what would you do? Would you keep quiet to preserve peace, or would you fight to have your voice heard? Drop your thoughts below. The days following the wedding were some of the darkest in my life. I thought that once the ceremony was over, maybe things would calm down, that maybe my family would come around, acknowledge what happened, and find a way to heal the wounds that betrayal left behind. But reality was far harsher than I ever imagined. The silence that descended after that day was suffocating and heavy, pressing down on me from all sides. The gatherings I once looked forward to attending became spaces of dread and isolation. Invitations stopped arriving altogether, and messages I sent went unanswered. People I once called family began to treat me as if I was a stranger who didn't belong in their lives. I was not simply ignored, I was erased, deliberately removed from the story they were telling themselves, a story where the truth was inconvenient and unwanted. Coming to terms with the fact that my family had chosen sides was one of the hardest realizations I ever had to face. They picked my brother and my ex-girlfriend, the very people who had betrayed me, over their own son and brother. Suddenly, I was the villain in their narrative. I was the one causing drama, the troublemaker who refused to let the lie stand unchallenged. This role they forced on me was isolating and painful beyond words. Being cast out by the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally left a wound that ran deeper than the initial betrayal ever could. My relationship with my brother was effectively shattered. He never reached out after the wedding, never attempted to repair the damage he'd caused. He acted as if I didn't exist, a ghost from a past he wanted to forget. There were no apologies, no explanations, no recognition of the hurt he inflicted. Accepting that the brother I once loved was gone was a bitter pill. Holding on to hope that he would return to the person I once knew only kept me chained to the past. Letting go was painful, but I knew it was necessary to start healing. Without the support of my family, I was forced to rebuild my life on my own terms. I sought new connections, friends and people who understood pain and loss, who offered genuine support without judgment or expectation. Slowly, I found strength in those new relationships and began to trust myself and others again. again. Independence became my refuge, a place where I could be honest without fear of rejection. The healing I experienced through these bonds was real and profound, a stark contrast to the facade my family maintained. Revenge never entered my mind. My goal was never to hurt others, but to reclaim my dignity and peace of mind. I learned to forgive, not them, but myself. I forgave myself for expecting loyalty and love from people who were incapable of giving it. I stopped waiting for approval from those who chose denial and silence over truth. That freedom was something I hadn't anticipated but welcomed fully. This experience changed me profoundly. I became more guarded, less trusting, but also more certain of my worth and values. I stopped chasing an illusion of family that was never really there. I set boundaries to protect myself and redefined what respect and loyalty meant in my life. This transformation was painful but essential. Walking away from my family was one of the hardest decisions I ever made. It felt like losing a piece of my identity, a part of my history, but it was necessary for my mental health and future happiness. Sometimes, healing requires leaving behind those who inflicted the deepest wounds, even if they share your blood. I chose to walk away from lies, silence, and broken bonds to build a life rooted in honesty, truth, and self-respect. If you find yourself in a family that chooses betrayal over you, remember that your truth matters. You don't owe anyone your silence or your pain. Sometimes the bravest and strongest choice is to walk away and start fresh, even if it means standing alone. What would you do if you had to choose between holding on to a broken family or building your own path without them? Share your thoughts below.